Good morning, everyone. My name is Jen Hicks. I'm the Director of Communications and Outreach with Maine Woodland Owners, a nonprofit organization statewide that has a little over 2,000 members, provides support and resources for landowners, woodland owners in the state. Would love to have anybody who's not a member to join us as a member. Check out our website, mainewoodlandowners.org. As part of our membership benefits, we offer programs such as this one. And today's topic is Landowner Relations a Q&A, not one, maybe a 101 as well, but a Q&A. This is a bit of a car talk style program where we have the Landowner Relations corporal, Andrew Smart, who is here to answer all your questions, provide some information that he wants to make sure landowners and land users have, and overall having a good conversation about what it means to be landowners in Maine, offering opportunities for the public to recreate on your land, and ways to make sure that you're still enjoying your land and you feel that your land is being taken care of by these land users. There's a lot of programs and a lot of resources in the state that support landowners to keep their land open to recreation. And we wanted, as an organization, wanted people to know what's available. And Andrew is the primary guy, one of the primary resources to help landowners utilize all the resources available for them to make sure their woods are being managed and used properly. Before we get started with Andrew, I'd like to just acknowledge that we have the director of the Maine Forest Service here, Patty Cormier, and I thought Patty could just say a quick hello to what I believe is mostly woodland owners here today, joining us in this program. So thank you, Patty, for being here.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Good to see everyone. And of course, the Maine Forest Service is very much connected with Maine woodland owners and inland fisheries and wildlife. And I'll be interested to hear what Andrew has to say more I want to make sure that I'm keeping a pulse on what Andrew is seeing for issues with landowners, and also to hear what others are having for issues. So good to see everybody.
Terrific. Sorry about the phone ringing. It's one thing I just don't know how to mute. I can mute a lot of things, but not the phone. Great. Okay, well, thank you so much again for joining us. And there are, I should say, Maine Forest Services is one of our go-to resources, one of our main go-to resources for our members. The district foresters throughout the state are some of the best people. They will come to your property, do a walk and talk about what is available. Often we'll point people towards the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife as a resource. It seems like there's a lot of collaboration between those two agencies, which is incredibly helpful for landowners. So I really appreciate having everybody here supporting our landowners. Andrew, I'm going to pass the torch over to you. Andrew's been actually a game warden for inland fisheries and wildlife since 2009. Am I getting that right?
Yes. Yep.
So he's been in the field for a long time, both in the northern part of the state, now is based in the Unity area. Well, he's statewide, but has been based in the Unity area. And he has been promoted to Landowner Relations corporal early this year. He's just getting himself fully into the position and works with another Landowner Relations corporal, Chris McCabe, and both are always available to our landowners. And today's program is primarily to talk about what the Outdoors Partners program offers, what a Landowner Relations corporal is and what they do, and to really answer any questions that people might have specific to their situation on their land. And the goal is for people to, again, feel supported and feel like they have the resources they need to keep their lands open for public use, for recreation use. Maine is one of the few states that utilizes private land for recreational opportunities primarily. In fact, over 90% of land in Maine is privately owned. So we're very reliant on our landowners to provide
Your phone?
recreational opportunities for people in Maine. So thank the landowners for doing that. I'm one of those recreational users, and I appreciate the opportunities that landowners do provide. So Andrew, I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you so much for being here and your willingness to present for us today.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for being here. So Jen covered most of it, but so I covered Aroostook County for about 7 years. In the middle of that, I went to Jackman for a year. Then I went to Unity for about 7 years. So I was kind of split my time, industrial woodlands in northern part of the state and western, and then went to Unity and basically had smaller, private landowners, not so much industrial forests. So I got to work with both. And that's really where I got my passion to work with landowners, to see, what the land meant to them in that time frame. I also gained an interest to be a landowner. Personally my wife and I have 55 acres in Maine, broken up into 3 different pieces. My goal is to own 100. I'm not quite there yet, but hopefully sometime we'll find some more land. So back in November, I put in for this position. It's a promotion through a hiring process, and I was chosen for this position to work with Chris McCabe. In this program, we have myself and Chris McCabe, and then we also have 2 part-time people that they're called landowner game wardens. Doug Coulis is a retired game warden. He spent 28 years as a district game warden around Georgetown, that area, and he came back to work 20 hours a week for Landowner Relations, and he's excellent at he's really found a great avenue for being our kind of a deed researcher for discontinued town roads. He's really grabbed onto that, and he enjoys doing it. Well, obviously we're not attorneys, so we can't give the final say on it, but we can kind of give it an idea if we think there's enforcement and we can do something with it, or if it needs to go to civil court. And Doug's been pretty good at that. So Steve Thistlewood is a retired sheriff's deputy out of York County, and he's covering the southern part of the state. So right now we have 2 part-time people, and Steve's the second one. So he's dealing down there. They have, a lot of ATV issues. So he does a lot with ATVs and just promotes access on private property. So I do not have a PowerPoint. I figured I just really wanted this to be a question and answer. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask at any point. So this is if you're not familiar with how, laws work, Title 12 is what we operate out of. It's a book similar to other laws, motor vehicle laws, criminal laws. Title 12 is all fish and wildlife and lands. So, and marine. So in Title 12, there's actually a law for landowner relations. And it's, if you wanted to Google it, it's 10108. And you just type in Title 12, 10108. You can read what I read here. But I'll just give you an idea of exactly what it says and where our program came from. Program's been around for about 11, 12 years now. Rick LaFlemme started it. It came with Tom Doak was actually on the board when it originally started back in 12, 13 years ago. And it was a panel of basically what they wanted to see. They made law for how the program is going to operate. And so I'll just read you some of that, give you an idea of where some of these programs that I'm going to talk about came from. So Landowner Relations Program. The commissioner shall develop and implement a landowner relations program referred to this as the program. So anytime I talk about the program, it'll be landowner relations. So part of the program will encourage landowners to allow outdoor recreation access to their property to hunt, fish, and engage in outdoor recreational pursuit, foster good relationships between landowners and outdoor recreations, and promote high standards of courtesy, respect, and responsibility to outdoor recreations and their relations to the landowners. The commissioner shall appoint a landowner relations coordinator to oversee the program and any landowner relations activities of the department. So that's where Chris and I come in. We oversee the program. another part of it is develop an outreach program that provides educational material, signs, and that disseminates information to landowners and land users about landowner rights, landowner liability, protections, and traditions, allowing outdoor activity for use of private land and law enforcement officers, resources available to landowners. And there's other things there, but basically that covers a couple of our programs that we have. So one of the programs is Keep Maine Clean, which is our big face on that is the landowner appreciation cleanup. Some of you may have had some trash cleanup on your property in September. Generally, it's the third Saturday is what we try to shoot for in September. And generally, we're right around 35 tons of trash a year. Waste Management actually donates the dumpsters for that. And BDS Tire takes all the tires for no charge on that day. So we try and coordinate as much trash as we can for those days to pick up on landowners. We've been doing it probably 10 plus years now. And, just as myself as being a district game warden, it's hard to find those big trash sites. I had Unity College for several years, and it's a competition type base. We judge it by truckloads. Unity College always wanted to, try and win it because winning prize was $1,000 gift card to Kittery Trading Post. So they would get a bunch of clubs together and then they would split the money. So they were always eager to find as much trash as we could. So I think we won one year that I was with them, placed in the top 3 several other years. But we would go around a bunch of different places and pick up roofing material, whatever we could find for trash to, fill the truck, clean up a landowner, and the college was happy as well. So it worked out for everyone. Over the time, we're not seeing those big trash dumps anymore, which is the idea behind it. We're kind of caught up on now we're cleaning up things that are happening within a year. So we're not cleaning up sites that are super old anymore. Other than last year, I went to Belgrade and we cleaned up TVs from like the 70s. So that's, we've done a really good job on cleaning up so much trash that we're into really old dump sites at this point. So it's working out really well. There may be some change to that over the next few years, just where we're not getting the big trash sites anymore. There's a lot of towns that are doing spring cleanup. We are going to help with the Belfast, Keep Belfast Beautiful. We bought them a dumpster. We bought the town of Addison a dumpster for this spring. So we may try and, come up with some different ideas on partnering in the spring with some other avenues to clean up trash, where we're not seeing the big trash in the fall anymore, which is great. But it's an all work day. Generally, we have every game warden in the state. They have to go out and work and find trash and pick it up. So it's really good. It gets everyone involved. We try and get club involvement. So the ATV clubs, snowmobile clubs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, basically any club we try and get involved with. That way they can take part in it. And they always like the competition part too. Does anyone have any questions as of yet?
There's one question in the chat.
Okay.
So, and maybe you'll be getting to this, but just so you know, that's of interest. So who is the person who deals with discontinued roads? And maybe there's, a little bit you want to say about that.
Yeah. So Doug Coulis is he's a part-time landowner relations warden. So he works 20 hours a week generally. But he probably has 4 or 5 different projects right now, discontinued roads he's working on. And a lot of that is new landowners in the last 3 or 4 years have bought property. They didn't realize that a snowmobile trail, in central Maine, southern Maine, we don't always have snow every winter to have a snowmobile trail. So they may have owned their property for 2 or 3 years and didn't realize that, there's a snowmobile trail there. So then they go out and put a gate, don't talk to the club, close it off, and then it becomes a dispute basically between the club and the landowner if this trail can be there. So Doug kind of digs into, is this, who owns the land? Did it revert back to the landowner, or does the town own it and they have an easement on it and the ATV or snowmobile club can use it? So Doug's been really good at that. So any of us can do that. Just Doug has found a real enjoyment in doing that. So if you have a question after, I can get you Doug's phone number. And you can reach out
And
to him.
actually, after this program, I will send out an email to everybody who registered, a list of resources that you recommend
Yeah.
people know about.
Okay. Yeah, I can, all 4 of our phone numbers we can put out.
Yep. Also, Patty jumped in. Thank you, Patty. And don't forget that Forest Rangers help with the trash pickup day as well.
They
So
do.
that's a great example of the collaboration between the two departments.
Yep. Yeah, they last year I partnered with Forest Ranger. We didn't have any club participation really. We had Thorndike ATV Club brought a few members, but the clubs, just because they're not picking up as much trash, they don't feel as helpful. So I think we've lost some club participation on that. So a lot of it was driving around, picking up, a couch here and there. So in the last few years, it really has fallen on game wardens and forest rangers because the club participation is down. So that's why we're trying to come up with some different ideas on how to get club participation back. But if the trash isn't there for them to pick up, then it's a good thing, but we've kind of lost our participation as well. So
Andrew, if someone is interested in, let's say, so what we do is we ask our members, if you know of property, you have some property that needs some cleanup, let us know. And I know that
Right.
even now you're starting to create a list of locations and gathering names of people and groups who would like to volunteer. So the time's now to get information to you, I would imagine, so you can get your plans together for the event, which has a date, right? The cleanup day
yeah, I'd have to look exactly. I think it's the third Sunday. I think I said earlier it's a Saturday, but I'm pretty sure it's a third Sunday.
of September.
Yeah, of September. And we don't have to wait until then. If it's, somebody just dumped a bunch of shingles, in your log landing, in a field that you own, we have engineering has an excavator they let us use. Landowner Relations, we have five dump trailers across the state. We have 5 divisions in the state for warden service, and each division has a dump trailer that Outdoor Partners bought. So we don't need to wait for that. We don't want you to sit on this trash until September. Give us a call right away as soon as you see that. If your neighbor has that happen, let us know and we'll get over there and clean it up. Try and organize a group so it's not just Chris and I picking it up, but that would be best. Let us know ahead of time. If it's something that can wait, yeah, absolutely, let us know so we can kind of plan that, and we'll get the district game warden can make a plan and get a club. All that's really what we need is places that we know we need to go clean up so we can get club involvement. That way we're not just out there driving around looking for trash. It's not super, clubs just don't enjoy that. They're giving up a Sunday and they don't want to just drive around.
So that would be the 15th, if that's the third
Okay.
Sunday
Yeah,
of September.
we'll put that out after, but
Yeah.
I know there is a date out. I think Sai had a question.
Yeah, there was a follow-up to the question about discontinued roads from Roberta. Roberta,
Okay.
did you want to unmute and kind of follow up with that? Or I can just read them.
Sure.
Message.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Roberta Manter. I can start my video here too. Get my face. Yeah. My name is Roberta Manter. I'm the founder of Maine Roadways, which is an acronym for Residents and Owners on Abandoned and Discontinued Ways. And when you said you have somebody who works with discontinued roads, my ears perked right up because that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years.
Okay.
And it sounds like he does the same thing I do, researching what the status of a road is, finding out whether it's discontinued, whether it's a public easement or not, whether the road is discontinued entirely and now somebody's landlocked. I help people all over the state with researching what their road is and helping them to find the laws that apply. So I would love to get in touch with them and
Sure.
talk with them and compare notes, compare resources, whatever. How do you spell his last name?
Coolest, Kulis.
Kulis. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll get you his phone number after.
Okay, I've got another meeting I'm supposed to be on at the same time, so I may get back in touch with you later.
Hold on 1 second. I think I can grab it right now.
Okay.
In the meantime, we did have a few other questions. So size questions next, and then RJ, I see that you had a question, a comment or a question here. So we'll definitely be getting to those.
Okay, I'm just going to type Doug's phone number.
One thing for our organization, this is an event that we also try to support as well. And so I'm the newsletter editor for Maine Woodland Owners, and I know that we put at least one article in the newsletter later in the summer about this. We want our members to take full advantage of this opportunity as well. So let us know how we can help. All right, you have that number, Andrew?
Yep. So let me just, so basically every game warden in the state deals with posted property landowner complaints daily. In the field, I dealt with it, all the time. Unity area, there was a fair amount of open access, but a lot of posted property. Come November, it was just a ton of trespassing complaints. So every game warden works on that. Just Chris and I are fortunate enough that we spend all our time. So we don't get called to a search generally to, it distracts us from landowner relations. Chris and I, that's all we do. So basically, if you do call us and we refer it back to a district game warden, it's because we know that they can handle that. So don't think that we're pawning it off back to them. That is something that they do. So it's just generally, we do like to funnel it through us so we know what's going on out there. And then we can assist them if they need to. But so if you do reach out to any of us and then we say, yeah, your district game warden ended up calling you, it's not because we didn't think it was worth us working on it. That's generally how it's going to work out. We'll help them with it, but they're all highly trained on dealing with issues. You probably won't find too many district game wardens digging into deed research on discontinued town road. They don't have time for that. So that's kind of what this program is figured out for. If we, where we're going to go with that. And a lot of times it does end up that we can't determine, who the actual owner is, or we give our best suggestion of where they can go with that, and we'll tell the club, either way, if we think they can use it or not. And then basically it comes down to, if we think it's the landowners, then they need to open up the land for it or work with the town. So that does consume a lot of Doug's time. He does enjoy doing it, but there's not always a clear-cut answer on that one. They're very complicated. So yeah, let's go back to questions.
Yep. Size question is, or comment is, working with landowners to unpost their land, particularly abutting owners, to create a larger open area. So did you want to add to that, or was there anything particular you wanted to share? Or is that something you're doing on your property?
Yeah, I think Cy had talked to me about it one of our woodland meetings. And so basically our part of our program is promote public access on private property and gain more private property for public access. So that's exactly what he's talking, I think is what he's talking about, that, to unpost it or to allow, to get access. It can be accessed by permission only if they allow people. We're not against signage. We give out access by permission only signs to landowners if they request them. If they go on our outdoor partner website, they're on sale there for 40 or 50 cents. But if you request directly, we can give you a fair amount, up to 100 for no cost. So you can just reach out to us. So yeah, basically if there's any landowners that you would like us to talk to, and see why it's posted or why they don't allow access, I'd be curious as well. Did something happen that didn't get, properly handled, or do they just, are they worried about landowner liability and they're not aware of that? Maine has a great landowner liability that, as far as we can tell, nobody's ever sued them, never made it through the court process in Maine for suing a landowner for any liability. So that's, really great for the state of Maine that it's never happened, that we can tell anyway. I believe some people have been sued, but it never actually went through the court process.
So I guess the question is, I live here in Brooklyn. There's a fair amount of posted land. I have not talked with the owners to figure out why, but it's sort of, one, they don't like the idea of hunting to start with. Two, they're worried about stray bullets from somewhere getting them. There's this list. It's a long list, some of which is rational, some of which isn't. And I'm wondering how to possibly start that conversation. Would it be up to me to contact landowners and say, would you like to get together and hear, from Andrew or Chris, or where? So which comes first, the chicken or the egg here? How do you begin a conversation?
I guess first would be if they were interested in listening to us, and then I would have no problem coming there. We can do a Zoom meeting, and field questions just like this setting here. or in person and see, are they open to it? You know, if it is a bullet issue, or would they be open to archery only? A lot of the towns and municipalities are open to archery only because of that issue. You can't have firearms in, you know, built up area town, but we have expanded archery in downtown Waterville, downtown Augusta, and most people don't even know that people are there hunting.
All right. So how do you suggest that any of us that are on this call or anybody else start a conversation in order to get somebody like yourself involved?
I guess it would all depend on your relationship with them originally. If you don't know them at all, you know, I guess you know, as a landowner, you don't want to be told what to do. Generally, most landowners don't.
Right.
So you really have to go into it kind of delicate and say, you know, this is what I'm thinking of doing on my property. I'm seeing who's available in the area, who would have interest in this in the area. We're budding landowners. Would you have any interest in this? And maybe that would stir some conversation on what they're nervous about, why it's posted. Do they allow any hunting now? Do you know?
Well, I don't know. I doubt it. You drive the road and it says no hunting. I doubt that they're legally posted because they're not posted all the way around. That's another discussion. So
Yeah.
somebody thinks their land is posted, but it's not. But simultaneously, in this part of the world, people honor those no hunting signs along the road. I haven't heard of anybody sort of pushing the envelope.
Right.
One of the results of having land open, and you know this, but just in general, is that if you give local, I've been asked by folks, can I hunt on your land? I've said yes to virtually everybody. You get a small cadre of supporters as a result of that. You, the landowner, get that. And those people, in fact, sort of act as your eyes and ears. If there's something out there going on, they will come to you and tell you. They will also occasionally bring you the results of their hunting. I came home a couple of years ago and found, you know, frozen moose meat sitting on the doorstep. You know, thank you for letting me hunt here. Not that he got a moose here; he got a moose somewhere. But
Right.
So there's a definite mutual benefit relationship that evolves from having your land open.
Yeah, and just in the last, you know, I didn't actually come to the office until probably mid-March because we were shorthanded in my area, so I had to stay in the field. But just in that short time that I've actually been in the office, I've talked to both sides of landowners. Some landowners, I talked to a landowner that they don't have any ties to Maine whatsoever. They own 600 acres in the Belgrade region, and ATV Club sent them a letter asking for their signature to put 8 culverts and gravel on their road. I'm sure at one time it was a winter road. Now it's being used as a snowmobile trail. And the landowner didn't like that. They thought it was excessive. They're absent, you know, they're not here. There's no value to them, is what she told me, by the club investing that kind of money into their land. But if it's somebody that lives on the land, and just in the, you know, this past winter, the storm damage, and the clubs go through, or a hunter goes through and cleans up your trail, you know, that's something that you can now use your trail, and you're not spending your entire weekend cleaning up your trail because they've already cleaned it up for you, and you can go out and enjoy your woods. So I think it really depends. Do they have any interest in their property or not? And that one in Belgrade, I found she had no interest in it. It's solely an investment for timber, and they don't care if people use it, but they didn't want to invest any money into it, and they didn't want the state to invest any money into it, or the ATV Club, because they didn't see a value in it. They actually thought it was a devalue. It was going to sell for less because it had ATV and snowmobile trails on it if they sold it to somebody from out of state. So that was their thinking on it. So yeah, I think it really comes down to what this landowner, you know, uses the property for. Would they appreciate trail maintenance, or you know, anything?
There's a comment or a question from RJ. It's kind of similar. 156 acres on Sebec River have ATV trail that with extreme rain and ATV usage blew out 1,500 feet of road to river. Need help reconstructing road, etc. I posted land last August in anticipation of preserving, rebuilding the town farm road, I think discontinued. So if someone like RJ is looking for support, my guess is you're gonna say, reach out to the ATV club. or the
Yeah, so
snowmobile club.
I guess that's a question for RJ. Is it a ATV club now? Trail?
RJ, if you're able to unmute and you can give
Or
us
you
a
can
little more
type either
info.
one.
He's on the phone.
Yeah,
There he is.
hi, yeah,
Hi.
can you hear me now?
Yep.
Sorry
Mhm.
about that. The, I have not been able to reach out to them as of yet. I've been traveling. I actually have, I operate a business in Midwest. And I'm relocating up here, in the next 2 quarters. And the idea is I'll be here full time. I would like to be able to, open up the land to, local people. But my road access is now between the excessive water that we've had, rains, and and I know it's ATV because I could see the wheel tracks. The degradation, the amount of degradation on that road is now, it's unsafe to actually travel. I couldn't get down there in a 4x4. So to reach out to an ATV trail, unless someone's got road building equipment, I don't know what they're going to do. But
so I
of
guess
course I
is
will
it-
reach out to them. Yes.
Is it an ATV trail, or is it you just saw ATV tracks going through it? It needs to be a state funded ATV trail for them to, or a
Well,
club.
Yeah, and I see, and I don't know if that for a fact, but I have seen ATV signs, if you will,
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I
so-
imagine it's some type of established, normally used trail that goes parallel to the river and then up to an access that goes to eventually dumps out into Town Farm Road and then into a paved road. And that's the road section I'm talking about. The road is actually 2,800 feet long from the paved road all the way down to the river, and it's a section about 1,500 feet plus or minus. That has really a 7 to 8, 9 degree grade in one spot that has the issues. And my concern is that someone's up and down trying to hike that or ATV it, they're going to turn over, they're going to get hurt.
So
on top of the fact that-
I'll hit on that real quick. Somebody else had a landowner question. So landowner response, landowner liability question. So say that was a situation that an ATV's on your property, they roll over and they get hurt on your property on your ATV, on their ATV.
Right.
But you didn't cause that washout. It was already there. You cannot be held responsible for that, for the other question that we had. If you went and purposely dug a big trench in the trail and didn't sign it and didn't put anything there, and you negligently caused an issue, then you could be responsible for something. But if nature does whatever it does to roads or trees or anything, the landowner will not be responsible for allowing access on their property. So if there's other questions on that one,
Right.
so if a hunter falls in an old well, the landowner can't be responsible. You didn't leave it there. If it was there from the 1800s, you didn't purposely put this well there. If you didn't know about it and whatever.
And mark it properly.
Right. So on your question, basically, you're right. ATV clubs generally do not do their own work, but there's state funding. So Brian Bronson is the contact for that. He's the state trails coordinator. And so ATVs, it's a whole different avenue of a different program. And we work with them closely, but we don't actually give the funds out for that. We do the enforcement for ATVs, but we don't do the trail maintenance. And forestry has been doing, they've been marking culverts and washouts for the last 2 years as part of their ATV enforcement. So basically, you need to find out if it's an ATV club, reach out to your club. If it is a club, then they may not know about it because, it's probably happened over the winter. And then they can, couple different ways they can get funds. If your town's willing to work with them, they can get a municipality grant. So that basically they'll get a bid for the project. They'll go to the ATV club will say it's $20,000. The town's willing to sponsor that grant, and then the state will actually pay that, and then the town will give it back to the ATV club, and they have a contract that will go out and do that. If it's a small, one load of gravel, probably the ATV club would handle it themselves. But if it's something substantial like it sounds like, you need an actual contractor and stuff like that. So it would go out to a bid generally, unless the ATV club.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's substantial enough that a lifted 4x4 Ram 1500 couldn't get down there.
Yeah, so
and you couldn't even get an ATV down there now. So
right. So if it's not an ATV club, NRCS has some grants right now for storm damage over the winter. So that's something you could pursue. If they're not willing to cover it, then it really comes down to just yourself. We can't. The only way that basically our program would put money into something is if you're allowing public access, which would be an ATV trail, snowmobile trail, something like that, and that all gets funneled through the trail program.
Right. I would be favorable towards public access.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, the first step would be
let's enjoy the land, not hurt it. Yeah.
Right. And in the last few years, the ATV clubs have been getting substantial money to basically give back to landowners. Just like I was saying, that 8 culverts in the gravel, ATVs have grown almost as much as snowmobiles in the last 3 or 4 years. And we realize that dust is, eliminating gravel on the roads. So the state registration fee, part of that goes back to trail maintenance. A substantial amount goes back to trail maintenance, and that goes through the club. So the club has to be aware of it. So you have to, as the landowner, you have to tell your club, and they can do anything as far as bridges, culverts, gravel. Basically, if it's a trail on your property and you're not completely satisfied with it, if it's a mud hole and you think it's going to be worse, let your club know, and they can apply for a grant. Generally, doesn't take all that long. There's certain times they need to apply for it, but they can,
right,
as long as you give them a heads up, they can do that.
Very helpful. Who do I talk to? I mean, is there I heard that the ATV club, I have to find out who they are. And
yeah. So
contact person.
Yeah. Generally, most of them have a Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook, you can just type in, what town are you in?
Dover Foxcroft, it would be Sebec River area.
Okay. Yeah, I can reach out to you
not the
after.
lake, but the river. Yeah.
I can reach out to, I don't know. I've never worked in that area, but I can find out and I can reach out to you after
That'd
who
be
the
helpful.
contact is.
Yeah. In my chat, I put my telephone number. So
Okay.
Great.
That'd be most helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's move on to, yes, thanks, RJ. It's good to hear from you. George had a question, or asks that you explain the landowner liability law in general, as well as the effectiveness of posting versus purple paint, and how doing so is interpreted and respected by hunters. Not opposed to recreational use, but I'm concerned about liability.
Sure. So yeah, I hit on that a little bit on the last one, that, the ATV situation. So same thing, if you allow any activity on your property and you didn't do something negligent, so you didn't dig a big hole or put up a cable on a active snowmobile trail, and didn't put up any signs and you need to do something basically outrageous that you would be responsible for. So if you're not doing that and somebody breaks their leg when they're out hunting, you can't be responsible for that.
But you can still end up in court.
You could, but generally it doesn't go much further than once they start hearing about it, you could be sued, right? But once they figure out landowner liability, doesn't really much further than that.
Does anybody other than because I read in the law that purple paint is a substitute for posting signs. Yep. Does anybody else in Maine know that?
So it's been in Maine for a little while. I would say 4 or 5 years. We've been trying to promote it. It was in the front page of our printed law books for a little while. It is getting more widespread. It was in other states prior to Maine.
Okay.
For the landowner, what we suggest is do purple paint where you can't really put up a sign, or do it every other. So it'll cut down on your signs. But generally signage, if you put it up 12 feet off the ground, so bring a ladder. If you put it, 4 or 5 feet, somebody's going to tear it down. Is what we generally find, especially if it's a new property.
But which is against the law.
It is. It's just that does happen. realistic. And, if we ever catch somebody, but the odds of us driving by when somebody's tearing down the sign is pretty
Yeah, you're not, yeah.
low odds, right?
But all right, but the purple paint is understood as, and that means by permission only, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So basically, we suggest putting signs at places where people are actually going to park, where they may pull over a wide spot in the road, and then purple paint maybe along the road with the signs. So at this point, we're not suggesting just purple paint because you're right, it's not well known. It's better.
Yeah, I kind of figured that.
Still going to take some time.
Got it. All right, thank you.
No problem.
And I've asked Andrew this, for those who are not 100% sure they know exactly the best way to put the posting signs up or the paint. He's told me he's got signs and purple paint in his truck. He's helped people actually start the process of getting that set up. So I'd say take him up on that. That's always an opportunity.
Yeah, that's one thing that Rick LaFlemme started within his first few years of every game warden in the field has a landowner relations bag. It's like a 3-foot bag, and forest rangers have it. And it has generally, you should keep 20 of each type of sign. So it's not, we can't post a 100-acre property out of our truck, but it's enough to put a couple signs at a parking spot so you can, alleviate you for some time until we can get you the proper stuff. In that we have cables, the purple paint, orange paint, flagging tape. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So we can basically help out every landowner, most issues right then. And I'll talk about, we'll hold off on questions for just a minute, and I'll talk about Outdoor Partners is where we get the money to buy this, that stuff. So Outdoor Partners is a donation-based program. It's part of the outreach program that I read about in the law in the beginning. So Outdoor Partners is, you can Google it, pops right up, tied to IF&W. So it's under the Landowner Relations, and it's comparable to Keep Maine Clean. So basically, it's Landowner Relations is our, I guess, parent company, and then those two are underneath it. Both programs Chris and I oversee. So Outdoor Partners, Chris has been working on that for about 2 years now, growing some merchandise for that. And with all revenue that comes from that, we buy game cameras for the field. We just purchased 30 Tacticams yesterday, roughly $3,500 for Tacticams for the field guys. So that, the situation of somebody stealing your signs, if it was a continuous thing, we'd, have a game warden go and put a camera on it, Tacticam, which sends it to your cell phone, and they would know, somebody stole your camera, stole your signs, and potentially who it is. And the goal is basically to have everyone have a cell phone camera in the next year. Right now, everyone has 2 game cameras, every game warden, but they're not cell phone cameras for the most part, because there's a subscription with that, and it just gets expensive, but we're transitioning into that. So the donation, we have roughly 2,200 people a year that are members. It's a $15 membership. And with that, Chris has also come up with a different plan to try and get some different, more people involved. The original idea was to get people that don't have to pay for recreation. So our snowmobiles and ATVs, they have to pay for registration. So that money goes into the trail funds and everything like that. Hikers, bikers, bird watchers, some of them, may want to donate, or, they're using the same trails and all that, but they're not required to pay anything. So this gives them an option if they want to support a program. They can pay $15. You can buy as many donations as you want, but they're at $15 increments. And so we bought gates for farmers, landowners that had ATVs going across, and we just couldn't figure out a way to stop them. We put up gates. We paid for the expense to have it done. We had bought fences last year. We did some crop damage fences, 3D fences for deer depredation around central Maine. And I'm going to Weyerhaeuser this week and picking up like 1,000 tree tubes. So it was a suggestion from Maine Woodlands. If, somebody's having deer problems, that to give them some tree tubes to, help that tree grow for some time. So Outdoor Partners is, we don't have a budget really in the state for all the signs that we produce. So that money all goes back into signage and everything like that. So we've got Chris partnered with Minus 33 on socks, wool socks. And so he sells that. They buy them. a little bit cheaper than what he sells them for. So there's, I think, a $3 markup, or that money goes back to the program. So it's not much, but it all helps.
Andrew, real quick, how many game wardens are there in the state?
So we have 125 and roughly 85 in the field.
So they're available and
Oh yeah, I mean,
and
you
the
see,
messages, don't hesitate to reach out to your to the game warden program
yep.
or you.
Any day that I'm driving around, it's rare not to see a game or anything. You know, most of them don't have door emblems anymore, just because there used to be a magnet, and all the trucks are aluminum, so the magnets don't stick. But generally, you can still tell a warden truck. But that's really why most of them aren't labeled now. There's no way to label it. But yeah, so you'll see them around, and generally, you know, the best way to get a hold of them is through your state police dispatch, the non-emergency line, and that's how we're dispatched, through them. So if you can call any of your main offices as well, whatever you're close to, but state police dispatch is the quickest way to get a hold of a game warden. I'm sure most people already know who their local warden is anyway. But
Okay, this is good segue. Alan Clark said it's great to see how this program has developed. The idea of an organized program with private landowners and the warden service support started with a landowner survey of SWOM members in the mid 1990s. That was our name before we were Maine Woodland Owners. In the mid 1990s, involving DWR, which is the Department of Wildlife and Resources, I suppose, at one time, and Gene Swan. The number one thing landowners wanted in the survey was to have access to game warden assistance with their public problems.
yeah,
So it
thanks for the
sounds
history
like
on
that you've grown into that vision.
Yeah,
Thank you for that historic perspective, Alan.
yeah, thank you.
Gus asks, are there legal obligations for landowners to put signage informing users if there are cameras on the property?
Nope. So you can put up a camera wherever you want. There's no obligation to you to tell anybody.
Quick and easy. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. I just wondered,
Thank you, Patty.
I don't know if there's like a way to poll people, but I'm curious how many landowners have cameras on their property? Or if you want to jump in and just talk a little bit about your experience
Yeah,
with that.
so actually another thing that just came from Maine Woodlands, Chris met with Tom 2 weeks ago, and then I just saw Carla at our LSRAB meeting. And Maine Woodlands owns roughly 10,000 acres, and they find tree stands on their property quite a bit, and they don't allow tree stands. So the question is, what can a landowner do with game cameras and tree stands when they find it? We don't really know. We've gone back and forth on, I guess in the past, landowners didn't want to sell them. They just, you know, did whatever with them. But recently we've been getting questions from the landowners, can we sell this equipment? You know, there's a value to it. So I've got a 4 or 5 page document written right now to go to the Attorney General's office for review. And there's several different ways we feel that they can get ownership of it, but they all involve the court process. Most of them involve turning over to your local law enforcement, which potentially is warden service, and hanging on to it, posting it in the newspaper, hanging on to it for 6 months and finding out nobody claimed it. Now it goes back to the landowner, but that needs to be through a judge. That's very convoluted for a landowner. We don't feel that that's the easiest way or the quickest way, and we just don't see landowners doing that. So we're trying to find a better avenue. That right now, the ice shack law, if it's an unlabeled ice shack, or if it's a labeled ice shack on property of another, it's considered abandoned, and the landowner can do whatever they want with it. So we're trying to hopefully get similar language on a tree stand. We know tree stands are all over the place. You may have purchased property and it came with a bunch of tree stands, and you know, you left notes and nobody ever called you back, but people are still using it. Or you've been a long time landowner and tree stands are just popping up, and they're very hard to find who's using them. So the easiest way is to get rid of them. The warden service doesn't really want to hang on to these either, because it's, you know, a big item to store, and we have to lock them up, because if somebody ever stole it, then, you know, we feel some responsibility to give it back to somebody, even though they may get a summons for it. It's still their property. So yeah, same with cameras. As a landowner, you can take the camera. If you find a camera on your property, you can take it, you can look at it. As far as law enforcement, we cannot look at it without a search warrant. So if you find it, you know who it is, or you look through the photos, you recognize a person, then you can tell us that beforehand. But if you give it to us, we'll apply for a search warrant to figure out who it is if you'd like to press charges. If you just want us to hang on to it and see if somebody calls and that, reports a stolen camera, I'll be honest, it doesn't happen that often. Generally, those cameras are $150. They probably realize the summons is about that. So they take their chances on they lost the camera and they're not going to call and report it. So cameras are really effective. I mean, we've used them forever. I use them personally for hunting and work. And I've made a bunch of cases, as a game warden with cameras. They work really well. We cannot put it on property. So if you're a landowner, the warden, there's no exemption for law enforcement. You need landowner permission. So unless you have a warrant for a reason to put a game camera out, there won't be any warden cameras on your property. So it's somebody else's that, unless there's a reason that, if you're doing something illegal, potentially, but for the most part, they're going to be somebody's private camera that you find on your property. And it does happen a lot. We get a ton of phone calls over that over the fall. Any other questions on cameras or tree stands or items? A vehicle, ATV, snowmobile, those are all easy things. We know those need to go through abandoned property process. If you find them on your property and you want to take ownership of it. But the tree stands and ground blinds and game cameras are popping up everywhere. And we just don't have a great avenue for it yet. So that's one of my projects that I've been working on the last 2 weeks. So hoping to have some hopefully better language in the next year or two that landowners can do what they want with these tree stands if they find them.
We are out of questions in the chat, but anybody who wants to unmute and jump in and ask questions, please do.
Yeah, I was just looking. How do you find out what game warden covers your part of the world?
There really isn't a great way. There's no map. Best bet would be I can get you in touch with them, or I believe in your area is probably Matt Teenan. He's been down there for a couple of years.
I'm just saying in general, here you are, you're a landowner in Maine. How do you go about finding out who to contact? I mean,
So if you're just looking to meet them, probably call your local office. So we have offices in Ashland, Jonesboro, Bangor, Augusta, Sydney, and Gray. So call one of those offices that is close to you and just ask them, you'll talk to one of our office assistants and you can ask them who your local game warden is. But yeah, we don't have any map as far as public, I guess, on where each warden works. We don't produce a roster like that. And that's generally just because it moves so often. Every 4 to 6 months, there's district transfers, and every time people are transferring. So it would be almost impossible to keep a live list like that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sharing the game warden webpage on the Outdoors Partner website. And there's, as Andrew suggested, there's 3 major areas. There's 800 numbers for Augusta, Bangor, and Holton to report a violation.
So those are our state police barracks. That's how we're dispatched. So they're a little more, I guess, formal, I would say. They may not tell you who your local game warden is. They're probably told they can't. But if you call our local IF&W office, your local IF&W office, they'll tell you who it is and how to get in touch with them.
Does it make sense just now that this group has met you that we can just say, Andrew
just reach out to me and
Chris
I can
are a good
contact
the gateway to that conversation with game wardens, probably.
Especially if it's anything to do with landowners, we would like to know kind of what's going on. So just to, there's so much going on in the state that like to know what the newest thing is, I guess, or what the newest issue may be. And the big issue right now is ATV clubs and the trails. There's snowmobile trails that never opened up because there was so much damage, which now is basically turned into an ATV issue for the trails. And we're not necessarily part of fixing the trails, but ATVs are now going to be riding wherever they want because the trails aren't there. So that does kind of come back to our issue of ATVs on property that, where they shouldn't be. So we'd like to, see the trails get repaired as quick as they can so we don't have ATVs everywhere and making landowners upset. I have notes and I think I covered.
Yeah, and I'll be sending like I said, Andrew and I will put together an email list of an email listing resources that this group and beyond should know about, and easy ways to be in communication. I will put a plug in for Cy Balch. I have to say, Andrew is our chapter leader for the Mid-Coast area. We have 10 chapters as an organization. Cy Balch is one of our chapter leaders, and he represents the Down East area, which is the Hancock County mostly area. And they host events, and we have had some really high quality events this year, in the past couple of years, because of our chapter leaders. And I plug Cy's next event will be in June 22nd on his property. He's going to talk about, he and another member are going to talk about trail building in their woods as a way
nice.
to not only access your woods, get into your woods and without concern about getting lost, which is a real thing, but also making it so people can use your property and make it more accessible on your terms. So that's June 22nd. And we're going to be, we'll have information on our website about that on mainwoodlandowners.org. But those are the type of programs that we are trying to support, because we do encourage people to make it so that they can have their own, they can have people enjoy their woods, but again, to do it in a way that's consistent with the goals and values that the owner has. And building good relationships. One thing, I just one thought I had, and then I'll, if there are no other questions, we can sign off. But going back to the, access for hunters on property, I've heard more people talk about how they encourage hunters to come on their property, and they build a relationship with that group of hunters, because then they become the eyes and ears of the property. If you build a relationship with hunters, that you do know that you've got people who care about your land as well, and want to make sure that it's being treated properly. So I've heard very good stories about that. And then, of course, that's, and as Cy indicated, you may actually get some nice game out of that for yourself. And so we may explore that as a newsletter article in the future, stories that people have about their relationships with hunters as a way to keep their land protected and maintain the way they choose.
Yeah, and that's also another thing that the Wildlife Division's starting to look at, basically crop damage, a DMAP program. A lot of other states have it, where the farmer or the landowner can give out tags specific for deer that doesn't take away from your regular hunting tag. And they're trying to generate a list of landowners that would allow hunting. It doesn't have to be that you have a crop damage, just people that would allow people to come and hunt on their property. We've realized over the last few years of all the doe permits, in 23, 17, those areas, 25, some of the people don't feel there's any place to hunt. So if we could generate a list, that's really what we're trying to see, what would interest would be, to put your name out there, your address, and a hunter would contact you directly to see if you're a good fit to allow hunting. A lot of people, it's different generation where they're not going door to door, knocking on doors, which whatever reason. So maybe, and some people may not like that. They may rather talk over the phone first. So I think it's something that hope it works out. Hasn't been tried yet, but we just seeing what interest would be from landowners if they would be willing to put their name out there and contact.
One more plug, and then I'll say goodbye to everybody. Jared Gregory is on this call as well. Jared, I'm sorry I didn't catch you there, but he is one of our district foresters for the Maine Forest Service. There's at least 10 of them, if not more, and they serve a similar role in providing, as I had mentioned earlier, as a resource for landowners. If you haven't had a district forester come to your property and do a walk and talk with you, I would recommend it. And again, if you just do a quick search on Google Maine Forest Service district foresters, you'll find that you can find who your district forester is as well. Jared is in the Mid-Coast area, and I know that he's just popped his email address on chat. So, but I would guess that Jared, knowing him, if you sent an email, if you weren't in the Mid-Coast area, he'd love to talk to you and direct you to the district forester in your area. Terrific resource. And again, they will always bring in the IFNW folks, the game wardens, if they see that is a need. So you really don't have to have any particular track to get yourself connected to these resources. There's a lot of interconnection, and anywhere is a good place to start to start getting the support you need.
Jared
So-
also maybe hosting a tree ID in June.
Yes, we're doing Tree ID in June at 4 different locations. That's another way of getting into your woods, feeling comfortable, knowing what you have. We have a lot of good programs. Chainsaw chaining, that's another great skill for people who want to be in their woods, want to make it so it's accessible, or get a little bit more firewood this year, knowing we may lose power again in the winter multiple times, which is always exciting. This was great. I love having everybody together. I
Yeah,
think we're
thanks for
going to do
coming.
something like this again later this year, Andrew.
Sure.
I think this is a topic that will always have interest. And thank you everyone again for making your land accessible, making it something that people like me who don't have woodlands feel comfortable and welcomed in. And that's what Maine's about. All right, have a great day, and we'll see everybody at our next program in next week with Tom Doak on the 10 Things New Woodland Owners Should Know program. So check our website for that information. Thanks, Andrew, for being with us today.
Thank you. See you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Andrew.